Welcome to the Chef's Grimoire, Winter. Today, we'll be working with the Fool.
Hi guys, we're going to get cooking in just a minute. We have a lot of recipes to cover. I want to do 2 earth recipes. One is going to be a chicken pot hand pie. The second is going to be an egg in the middle muffin. They're all grounding, nourishing, and perfect in the category of an earthen meal. The next, we're going to move on to fire, and we're going to do 2 recipes there. We're going to do a harissa lamb meatball over a cherry tomato salad with a pomegranate and sumac dressing. That is fire on fire. It's wonderful. The second is going to be fiery earth balls, and I'm calling them earth balls because they have a lot of grounding in them, but they're fiery. You'll notice that I'm trying very hard to keep things in each category, but as we go, there's a lot of meshing of the elements. That's how we get our variety in our food. If we eat only from one element, it's not gonna do justice to our digestive system or keeping us healthy. So we've got to a little of this and a little of that, and everything in moderation.
If you remember, in the first part of the series, we talked about the elements. We talked about earth, and we talked about fire. We also discussed the correlation between culinary and the tarot. So let's cook some recipes. This is our mise en place for our hand pies. We'll get into each ingredient in a minute. We're going to start by getting our pan hot. You don't want it too hot because the butter might burn. We'll add the butter and let it just poach for a bit. Now that beautiful mirepoix. Remember, we did that in part 1, knife skills. We'll stir it up and let it cook. This is going to take about 15 minutes until it looks translucent and the carrots are soft. Now add flour, your celery seed and ground thyme, a good pinch of salt, and stir it all up. What we're doing here is we're going to take care of cooking the flour so it doesn't taste raw. We're going to add our chicken stock and our milk, and this is all going to come together to a lovely sauce. The flour is acting as a roux, and that's going to thicken the sauce. It takes time, about 5 minutes, and heat, so keep your pan on medium-high, and every once in a while scrape the bottom of the pan as you stir. If you start to see the bottom of the pan, that's a good indication we're ready to move on. Now we're going to add our chicken and our peas and give it all a stir. Let that sauce thicken up just a bit more. For our dough, we need flour, baking powder, and salt. Into the food processor it goes, and we'll pulse it a couple times to get air into the dry ingredients. Next, we'll add cubed cold butter and cubed cold cream cheese. Next, we'll add a beaten egg and the apple cider vinegar. Pulse it a few times and then let the machine run. And what we're looking for is for it to come into a ball. It should take about half a minute. If it doesn't, you can add a little more water if it's too dry, or a little more flour if it's too wet. The idea is to have a beautiful piece of dough that's soft, supple, and doesn't stick to your hands. You're going to form it into a ball, not handling it too much. Flatten it a bit and refrigerate. Once rested, we'll start to roll our dough out. If it's too cold, leave it out on the counter for a couple minutes until it starts to soften up. The idea here is we're going to roll and turn, roll and turn. It's very important because if you don't turn each time you roll, your dough may be sticking to the counter and you won't know until you're ready to start to move it. Flour generously, but not overly. We're making a 12 by 24 inch rectangle. I use the half sheet pan as my guide. You can see it's really rough, so I'm going to cut and patch the dough, rolling the patches so that it all meshes together. And I'm looking to form a perfect rectangle. Now, using the sheet pan one more time, I'm going to trim off all around it. So now this is going to really help shape it and make it perfect. Now we're going to score the rectangle into 6 long strips. I like to start at center, and then I eyeball the other 2 lines. I'm going to do the same to the other side. Once you have your long strips, flour your surface, and we're looking to make the top half of the strip a little wider than the bottom, maybe by 1 or 2 inches. Now you'll have a shape something like this, and we're going to fill the bottom half, leaving the top half open because we're going to take the top and cover the filling. You'll see by rolling it a little wider at the top, you'll be able to shape the dough around the filling, getting out all the air bubbles, and still have the top dough meet the bottom dough. You're going to score the whole thing with a beautiful fork, trim the edges, and place your hand pie onto the sheet pan. Now we're going to score them. You may want to chill the pies a bit before you score, but that's entirely up to you. We're going to beat an egg and wash the dough all over. Look at these. Are they not the most beautiful thing ever? Delicious, nutritious, and perfect for a fool's pack. We're going to mince up some fresh dill and fresh thyme for our egg in the middle muffins. I'm going to take the little fronds, or the leaves, so to speak, of the dill off of the stem, as you would parsley. And I'm going to put it into a little pile. I'm going to hold the pile with my non-dominant hand, and with a pinch curl on my knife, I'm going to slice through the little fronds. Now to mince, you're going to use the middle of the knife. And I'm going to hold the tip down with my non-dominant hand. Mince, 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 mince. Now we're going to do the same with thyme, but thyme is a little different in how you prep it. So you have to turn it on itself and pull, kind of like kale leaves. You're going to do this to all the stems. Some you'll need to grasp a few at a time to do, but eventually you'll get a nice little pile like this. Again, a pinch curl on the knife, but this time I'm going to actually start to mince without breaking it down prior, because it's already flat, if that makes sense. Now I have my beautifully minced parsley and dill. This is another really great earth recipe. We're going to start with whole milk, cheddar cheese, millet flour, chickpea flour, baking powder, olive oil, our fresh herbs we just minced, and 8 eggs. We also need a jumbo muffin tin. We're going to add all the dry ingredients into the bowl. I'm also adding a generous pinch of salt. Now we're going to mix our wet ingredients. We're going to use 2 of the 8 eggs in the batter. And I'm cracking on a hard surface, then opening the shell with my 2 thumbs. This is better than cracking on the side, less shells in your work. We're going to whisk up the wet ingredients really, really well. And we're going to mix our dry ingredients, making sure that everything's incorporated. Now we're going to pour our wet into our dry ingredients. And you're looking to mix this so that all of the flour is incorporated into the wet ingredients, but try not to overmix. We're going to take a tablespoon and take about 2 to 3 tablespoons worth of batter and put it into each of the little reservoirs of your muffin tin. Now we're going to take an egg and we're going to crack each one into the reservoirs. And with the remaining batter, you're going to cover the egg. This may take 1 or 2, probably 3 tablespoons. Oops, got a little shell in there. Amazing. These cut and store beautifully. Have a little earth anytime you want. This next recipe is loaded with fire elements, cherry tomatoes, which we're going to be using these 2 handy dandy tools to chop up. I'll show you in a minute. I've got sumac. This is a nice tangy spice from the Middle East. Perfect for this salad. Some lemon, pomegranate molasses, olive oil, minced parsley, finely sliced shallot. And I'm using my very favorite tool. It's a lemon squeezer that I just love. A wide-mouthed jar is going to be perfect for mixing our dressing. So we're going to add everything into the jar. The shallot, the lemon, sumac, a pinch of parsley, and the rest can go into the tomatoes. About a tablespoon of the pomegranate molasses, and the oil. Cover the jar so that if there's any seepage, it'll go into the towel. Shake, shake, shake. Now you're going to taste your work. Perfect. Our salad wouldn't be complete without lamb meatballs. So I have some ground lamb, an egg, harissa paste, ground garlic, and ras el hanout, which is a combination of different Turkish Middle Eastern spices, ground coriander, and smoked paprika. Now this is tapioca flour. We're going to use it instead of breadcrumb, but you certainly can choose to use breadcrumbs if you wish. We're going to add all our ingredients for the meatballs into the bowl. I find the tapioca flour gives the meatballs a crunch on the outside, but yet keeps the inside super tender. Mix everything well, and you're going to need some water to wet your hands. This is a wet meatball dough. We're forming the meatballs into about a 2-inch diameter. And we'll place them on a parchment-lined sheet tray. So now we're ready to plate our creation. I'm going to give a drizzle of the pomegranate molasses on the plate, a generous portion of our tomato salad with the pomegranate and sumac dressing, and for one serving, about 3 meatballs to top the salad. Now I'm going to drizzle some more pomegranate on top and finish with parsley, but you could also add some nuts if you wish that are toasted, some goat cheese. I mean, look at this dish. It's just fire. It's beautiful. For our final fire recipe, we've got peanut butter, honey, unsweet coconut, dried cranberries, mini chocolate chips, cocoa powder, espresso powder, cinnamon, sesame seed, and pistachio. Now this is so easy. We're just going to put pretty much everything in a bowl and mix it up. It might make things a little better if you've minced up the dried cranberries. I find the texture is a little better in the end result. And once everything is incorporated, you want to refrigerate this. It'll make it easier to roll. I'm using the smallest cookie scoop I had and forming about 2-inch balls. And you're going to roll them in any of the toppings you wish. Just look at these. Aren't they amazing? Keep them in your freezer or fridge for a little fiery snack anytime.